In one of the few documented cases by the police, the Gutierrez family battled against an entity who was invited into their lives by their daughter that ended in her death. So turn out the light and pull up the covers as I share a tale of the paranormal. In early 1990, Estefanía and her family were called to the hospital to say their final goodbyes to her estranged grandfather, who'd been suffering with dementia. His relationship with her mother, Concepcion, had become severely strained. In his final moments of life, he called out to Estefanía and whispered his final words. "If I cannot harm you in this life, I will do it in the next one." A few months later, a group of friends gathered in a school bathroom to conduct a seance. One of Estefanía's friends had lost her boyfriend tragically in a motorcycle accident. They had hoped to be able to connect with him. Estefanía's sister was tasked with being a lookout as the teens began to play the Ouija board, using a glass in place of the planchette. It wasn't long until a teacher had discovered the girls by bursting into the bathroom. She ripped the board away from them before they could end the seance and broke the board in two. The glass they used as a planchette shattered into a puff of smoke, which Estefanía inhaled. In the weeks that followed, Estefanía's mental health began to deteriorate. She struggled with insomnia and began to suffer from hallucinations where she would hear voices coming from behind the wall of her bedroom from the bathroom. Estefanía explained that a shadowy figure would follow her around in the corners of her room and down the halls of her home, whispering to her, "Come with me." Estefanía would slip into trance-like states where she would laugh uncontrollably, talk incoherently, utter guttural sounds, and sometimes Estefanía would become violent and she would attack her siblings. One attack left her younger sister lying on the floor, foaming from the mouth. One day, Estefanía and her mother got trapped in the bathroom, the same room where Estefanía heard the voices. They struggled to open the door, but an invisible force held the door shut while her father Maximo attempted to break in from the other side. Determined to not let the spirits of their home maintain control over his family, took a step back to muster up strength to lunge forward with one last kick. As he lunged forward, the door clicked and slowly swung open before he could make contact. Estefanía also began to suffer with seizures, and her parents sought the help of physicians and specialists to treat her, but none could determine any illnesses. One physician, in an attempt to provide some form of relief, pre-diagnosed her with epilepsy based only on a few symptoms that she had been experiencing, and began treatment. Only there were no changes. On July 13th, 3 months after attempting to contact spirits with the Ouija board, Estefanía slipped into a coma at home after having another violent seizure. Her parents rushed her to the hospital, where she died a few hours later. Estefanía was finally at peace, or so her family thought. The activity continued in their home, only now it grew in intensity. Small objects began to move on their own. Doors would open and close in their home. Knocking sounds would echo from the walls of Estefanía's room. Unembodied laughter would be heard throughout their home. At times, the silhouette of an elderly man would be seen walking the hallway just outside Estefanía's room. The events began to get more physical over the years that followed Estefanía's death. Glasses would break in their home. Family members would be woken up at night by someone scratching at their feet. On one occasion, their family dog had been picked up and thrown across the room. Paranormal investigators and mediums had tried to help, to no avail. It is rumored that during one attempt to cleanse their home, An EVP of Estefanía was captured, warning her family that it was her grandfather and other spirits causing them harm. One night, a picture of Estefanía flew across the room and fell to the floor in the middle of the room and caught fire, burning through the center of Estefanía's face before extinguishing itself. Maximo and Concepcion began finding crosses turned upside down and claw marks along the walls of their home. At her wit's end, a tired Concepcion called the police at 2 a.m., screaming, "Please come quick, he is here!" After explaining to the operator what was occurring, she was transferred to the police to explain the situation. Cynical of the authenticity of the call, the officer asked to speak to her husband. Maximo frantically told the same story, causing the officers to request to speak to their children to confirm what was happening. Shortly after, Inspector Jose Negri and his team arrived at their home, finding Maximo and Concepcion huddled with their children outside in the rain, terrified. A few of the officers entered the home still skeptical of the story they were told. A loud bang came from Estefanía's room, prompting them to investigate. A wooden cross that had been bolted to the wall had been thrust into the center of the room, breaking it into two. The officers were soon engulfed by the entity banging on the walls around them. As they moved throughout the home, cupboards began to open and slam closed violently. Voices could be heard coming from the balcony. Later that day, Inspector Jose Negri would file a police report of the activity that they encountered, making it one of the rare paranormal events documented by law enforcement. The Gutierrez family would eventually sell their home and move away, leaving whatever had haunted them behind. Have a story about the Ouija board or something paranormal? Share it with us and maybe it will be told in a future episode. Until then, sleep tight.